lot of things, but this series in particular has a special place in my heart because we are working on building out a new resource site for entrepreneurs and small business owners in Frisco. All right, so Jason, Melinda, tell us kind of the journey of why you started Reliable Technologies in the first place.
Well, first of all, before we get to that, I want to say thank you, Crystal, and thank you to the Frisco Chamber. We've been chamber members for many years now, I think over 6 years, and we love the Frisco Chamber. We're so proud of the Frisco Chamber. You know, we were just down in Austin recently, and I'm proud to be a part of the Frisco Chamber and just the brand that you guys have created. It's really amazing, and how you guys have helped our community so much. You know, Melinda and I, we were both children of entrepreneurs. And early on, we both were employed at employers, and we just felt like we had a passion for starting a business. And so we felt like there was a need in the market for high quality IT support. We had talked to several business owners that had said, you know, they weren't getting good responses. They were, you know, their stuff was breaking constantly. They just didn't feel safe and secure in their own business with the tools that they had. So we felt like there's an opportunity there. Now, I will say, you know, we didn't have any business classes, no business acumen, just felt like there's a need out there. And so we thought, you know, we're gonna give this thing a shot. Now, I will say our son Noah was 1 year old at the time. And it was in 2007, which is not a great time to start a business, by the way. Did I miss anything?
We were scared. I was probably more scared. But it was more exciting type of scared. It was thrilling to do something adventurous. We knew that we would only be young once, and so we decided to seize that opportunity and just really lean in and see where it took us. The first year was, we were just talking this morning about how well we did financially. It wasn't good our first year. We lived off of our savings. We really we didn't know what we were doing. And then the second year of business was 2008, which everybody knows what happened in 2008. But somehow we doubled our profit that year. And then we started to grow and refine. And so it's been 18 years now, and somehow we're still married and we're still in business together.
And can I give you a spoiler alert for the end of this story? Not the end, but where we're headed is now they are on the Inc. 5000, recognized as the fastest growing business. So you guys have really, you know, gotten the accolades that you probably couldn't have imagined when you took that initial leap. So kind of tell us about those early days. I love, Jason, when you were talking about kind of pounding the pavement and going door to door, because you had the skill set of the IT side, but now you had to go get the customers. What did that look like?
No, that's a really great question. You know, I should have started off too by mentioning that I've been in IT for 33 years. So, you know, I've been doing IT since computers were very simple and single color monitors. If anybody here remembers those clicky key monitors or clicky key keyboards. So when we first started off, you know, I thought, I'm just gonna go door to door and knock on business doors to see, like, hey, you got any computer problems? I know that sounds so simple. And then, so I would do that, you know, most of the morning and part of the afternoon. And then for, you know, anybody that responded, I would take the late afternoon and the evenings and actually go do the IT work. So I feel like we did that for at least the first couple of years because we had mortgages to pay at the end of the month. And, you know, I didn't want to let, you know, our family down. And, you know, somehow by some miracle, actually, we never missed a single mortgage payment or car payment. And, yeah, I mean, I think it was a lot of hours, you know, 60, 70-hour weeks easily. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, you don't become an entrepreneur and then get an easier schedule.
No, and I want to, you know, there's a lot I could say about Jason, but one thing that stood out to me, and somebody that came from an entrepreneur family and also saw the grit that it took. I always believed in Jason. He looked me in the eyes and said, I will get 3 jobs. I'll do whatever it takes. We are going to make this business work. And I believed him, and he has never let me down, and I'm just very proud of him. But he would knock door to door, and he didn't mind embarrassing himself. He didn't care, because that is an embarrassing thing, to knock door to door at businesses and solicit. So this is before all the no soliciting that has gone up. Don't recommend it if there's a no soliciting sign. But, we have still to this day some of the same customers that we had from back then, and that all this time that still believe in us and our team. And that really is a testament to Jason's hard work.
What about some of the things you wished you'd known then? If you could share that, because I think whatever industry you're in, some of those kind of carry across. What are some of the things you wished you'd known when you were starting out?
How much time do we have? I made a lot of mistakes. And so, we've read so many books, probably several hundred books. One of them was Traction, by the way. I highly recommend EOS. We implement part of that in our business now. I think probably one of our biggest takeaways was, early on you don't have much money, and Melinda had mentioned our first year we did $45,000 in revenue. So that was our top line. And that's every single dollar counts when that's your top line for the year. But it does lend itself to where you're wanting to do everything yourself. And I think we probably should have segued quicker into delegating and adding people. Hiring that first employee is a huge challenge. It's a big risk, because you're basically your entire workforce is one human. And so if they're sick, basically the company is, not doing good today. So that was one thing I think. So, and then bringing in professionals, attorneys, CPAs, business consultants, peer groups. I think we've learned so much from peer groups. We just started this about 7 years ago, where we meet with other businesses and we all talk together. It's like group counseling and camaraderie, but everybody can talk about, here's my problem in our business, and then everyone can share and help each other out.
On that note, I think that's so important, and that really is the spirit behind this program. But I was just talking to a small business owner the other day who said, I think sometimes we're not open to sharing the truth. We kind of make it look better than it really is. But if we would just kind of sit down and share that, maybe there's more camaraderie and, shared lessons that we could all be better for. Do you agree with that?
I definitely agree with that. I would say the most comforting piece to a peer group or sitting down with another business and just spilling your guts to them is that they also have their own troubles and concerns. And if you're open to sharing, they're going to be open to sharing back. I would say that the most comforting thing, though, is signing an NDA. I think that is, if you have that piece of paper, all is good. And all of our peer groups, we all sign NDAs. And there's something about that legality that lets people feel like they can open up. I don't know why, but that is the truth.
All the legalese, that's what it is. Just makes you comfortable.
It does. And, I want to say this. We went into this thinking, hey, this is great. I'll be my own boss. I'll be able to set my own hours, and you get to choose which 14 hours of the day you're going to work. That's the reality of it. And that's 7 days a week. It's a roller coaster. I would like to mention that this has been one of the most exciting and scary, fulfilling and difficult things that we've ever done. I mean, literally, even just like in the last week, sometimes you get bad news in business and it's a gut punch, and they can really get you down. But I think knowing that every single day is a gift and a new opportunity, that's been huge.
But I think that's part of it, right? So it's a gut punch because it's personal, because it's your business. And so your service to your clients, it's different than when you're working for somebody else, right?
Yes.
So on that note too, you mentioned choosing your 14 hours that you get to work in the day. One of the other challenges is when you're working for somebody else, you're in a corporate job like you were before, you have PTO, you have time off. When something happens, you hopefully have, a supportive structure around you to take that time away. You all have dealt with some challenges health-wise in your family, and the business has to keep moving, and you don't have that paid time off to just stop. So how did you navigate that as the business owners?
We have a great team. I want to start by saying that we have a pretty rigorous hiring process that we go through. It's a really great program, and we have a wonderful team that backed us up during our most challenging time, which is when our son was diagnosed with cancer. He was 15, and we were not expecting that. It was not in the cards for us. We lived in the hospital for a year, and we would take turns, bring our laptops with us, and we would work. And there would be times when I would wait till my son's chemo was done at 9 p.m., and that's when I would start work, and I would work till 3 in the morning. And I would sleep for a few hours. The doctors would be back in at 6:30, 7 a.m. with 12 people ready to go, and the day would start over. And I couldn't have done it without the team back in Frisco here supporting me. But it did open our eyes to what Jason was saying earlier, was that, learning to delegate is a huge thing, and it did open our eyes. And I'm still a work in progress, but I am still working on delegating. I think it's probably one of my biggest challenges. And I think some people might hear that and think, oh, I would love to delegate. Well, some people have a hard time giving things up, and I'm one of those people. I like to hold on, and so that was definitely a lesson learned. What about you, Jason? Was there anything you wanted to add?
I would, as a lot of small business owners do, cost and expense we were looking at every area where we could save money, and one of those was with healthcare. We were using a medical cost-sharing company where it's not technically insurance. We weren't certain they were going to pay for all the chemo. It was, for Noah's treatment, it was $2 million, and so I will say this, that it was a very difficult time. I did wonder, are we going to have to rack up the bill and just pay it off? So we did, we have a philosophy that's, failure is not an option in business. And so when we looked at this just as another problem to solve, and that's what you're faced with every day as a business owner. Literally, you're faced with problems, and this was a big one.
Well, as someone watching on the sidelines, the way that you guys navigated that and emerged just so positive and faith-filled, it was really an inspiration. As your company has grown and you've had the successes, we see you being more involved in the community. We talked about Jason serves on the EDC board. You're involved in the chamber. So talk through that process, because I think early on, maybe that's the goal. You're working toward being able to give back, but it's hard to see that light at the end of the tunnel when you're kind of in the trenches. Was that always a goal for you to be able to get to that point, to be able to give back?
I think so. One thing I didn't get to mention is that the community, like Melinda mentioned, our employees, but the community of our church, our neighbors. Actually, I've got a neighbor here right now. We had people just surrounding us with food and prayers and texts and love, and it was overwhelming. And this is why I hope I'll live every day of my life in Frisco, because I love Frisco. We love this community. This community has loved us dearly, and we hope that we can give back in any way possible, through serving on a municipal board or whatever way we can, nonprofits, and in any way possible. So we're here for the long haul. Hopefully you guys are good with that.
I feel like that's a mic drop moment. Am I right? Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, you said it so beautifully, and I think I want to make sure we have plenty of time for your questions. So who wants to kick it off with a first question to Jason and Melinda? All right, we got one. Go ahead.
We always agree. I'm just kidding. Jason and I are in alignment in so many areas. We are very rooted in our faith, and we are very traditional. There have been many times where I maybe questioned Jason's decisions, but I always supported him, and he's always proved me wrong. So it's kind of a trick answer because he's a great leader, and he's somebody that is easy to follow. Disagreements, we don't have a lot at work or at home, but we have a peer group too that helps us navigate where we get stuck or where we don't see eye to eye. But I just trust this man. Do you have anything to add?
Oh yes, we fight. I want to say that because look, we're human beings just like everybody here, and what we try to do is keep. It's hard to, because as you said, when you work together with your spouse, we just try to keep like any personal matter out of the workplace. So there have been some mornings where we didn't get to work till 9 or 10 o'clock. And that's the reality of it. And, and Melinda's right though. I do think that Melinda has a wonderful skill with people. And so, and I know a lot of her giftings, and I try to lean in on her expertise. And so if it's one of those areas, I try to follow along with her, her direction and her leadership, because Melinda's a great leader in her own right. And then if it comes to like an IT problem, I might know how to fix that server.
That's a good partnership right there. Okay, what other questions? Yeah.
We could spend a lot of time talking about the mistakes I've made. Literally, I feel like successful business looks like making mistakes every single day. In fact, I saw somebody give a speech recently that said, "I never learned a single thing from success. I only learned from failure." In fact, we try to foster an environment when we're training our new employees that if you're not making mistakes, then that's a sign that we're not really empowering you to take risk. And so we really want to empower people in our environment to take risk and make mistakes. And, I'm the first one to say, that was me. I screwed that one up. I literally just had to do that in our team meeting this morning. But going back to your question, the broader question about what was my biggest mistake, I would say probably wasting time. It's the one most valuable resource that you have that you don't know how much you have. And, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. And so I feel like we wasted probably 8 or 9 years that we could have, experienced far more growth and done some pretty cool things. But we just it was really Melinda and I for the first 8 years. And it took a while till I figured out that, when we go on a vacation, which we took like one in that 8-year period, we weren't making any money. And so it just didn't seem like we were creating opportunities around us for employment and growing a business. And so that was a wake-up call. But I feel like we wasted 8 years, and that was a pretty big mistake.
Okay, to follow up on that, when you say that, do you mean that you waited 8, 9 years to hire a team, that you felt like you could have done that sooner?
Yes, exactly that. Yeah, we didn't hire our first employee until like our 9th year in business.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm taking all your questions now. But so once you went on that journey, you mentioned that's a very big decision and a challenge in and of itself, because now you're taking another family on your shoulders, right? That's that person's livelihood, their family too. You talked about, the challenges of hiring that first employee. But let's talk about both the rewards and the pressure of having employees and a team that relies on you.
It's a lot of pressure. When I was speaking with Crystal about this, was that last week, and Karen, it really hit us during COVID when the world kind of stopped. And we had to look at all of our families, all of the families represented with our employees, and we counted it all up, and we sat down one night and we said, we are responsible for this many people, multi-generational families, kids, grandkids, grandparents, everything, everything in between. And it was a heavy burden. But we strategized, and I feel like we just have this hiring system that got the right people in at the right time for us, and they were in it with us. They had some ownership in this. We're going to all survive this time, and I think that's when we really pivoted as a team, and we really grew strong together. And that was really the crux of it, was COVID, and that's when we shifted everything.
You know, it's such a privilege, by the way, to be entrusted with employees. You know, we have a staff of 12 now, which in our business is like a third of what most organizations that are doing our runway rate have. And I say that to brag on our team, because we've hired some of the best and brightest people. And they're just so amazing to watch. In fact, we just try to get out of their way, really, and remove roadblocks to their success. But, you know, I will say one thing we just really love is the opportunity to do cool things. We've got one of our top senior engineers. You know, IT doesn't lend itself to many females in IT engineering, and we actually excel in this area. Our top senior engineer is female, and she had used up all of her PTO one year, and her mom was in town, in country, and I could tell she was kind of, you know, sad about this, and we were able to just, I mean, as a business owner, you just take a few extra days, you know, and the look in her eyes, like she had been seen. And, you know, I know she had been employed by other organizations, but just knowing that you can color outside the lines as a small business owner and have a real impact on people, like, that's what gets me that's what gets us jazzed up in the morning, is knowing that we can have a positive impact on somebody's life. And I could tell you a bunch of stories like that, but anyway.
Yeah, that's the best. We're all in the people business, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, what other questions?
That's a really good question. Yes. So I heard it said recently that the worst thing an engineer can do is improve a process that should not exist. And so once a quarter, we sit down and we have a strategic meeting, and we bring in food, and we'll sit down and just say, you know, these are the things that worked last quarter. These are the things that worked last year. Should we, first question is, should we still be doing these things? If the answer is yes, then are we doing them the best possible way? And so to answer your question, yes, we do encounter situations where it's like we're seeing some plateau in the growth, and what's the business telling us? Because you can look at KPIs, you can look at, you know, SEO traffic, you can look at calls. I mean, there's all kinds of metrics. We're big into data and metrics, and you know, I'll just tell you that I feel like business is an iterative process of, just like Edison, you know, he figured out 100 ways not to make a light bulb. And so that's literally what we're doing every single day, is trying different things and then seeing what works. And then when you find something that works, you just do a lot of that. And hopefully that breaks through any plateaus.
You make it sound so simple. Okay, what other questions? I love that question, because that is something every business of all sizes worries about. A great question.
I love that question. Thanks, Nate. That's my neighbor, by the way. No, it's a great question, because actually DFW is the second biggest market for IT people, so you're absolutely right. It's a highly competitive area for employment, and we have 1,500 competitors in DFW, so how do we compete to keep these jobs? I would say, first of all, we try to find people towards the beginning of their career, give them their first shot. I feel like that's one. Creating interesting and cool new employee benefits. We try to take all of our employees out for events on a regular basis. We try to celebrate their wins. But I'll tell you, probably one of the biggest things is, and this is one that we're really focusing on this year, is they've come in to join your vision as an organization, okay? And I feel like businesses don't do a great job of joining with your employees' vision for their life. And so I think as business owners, and I'm speaking to myself, by the way, I'm saying this is something we're still unpacking, is how can we do a better job of finding out what are your life goals? And if I can make those opportunities happen here, then we're going to. So, perfect example, we don't do like the typical corporate annual raise. We do annual review, but if you're ambitious and you want to get certifications, then you can get raises. I've got one employee that got 4 raises in a year, and they almost more than doubled their pay in their first year. And so we don't want to create caps, because what happens is, I think a lot of people feel like I'm going to have to move out of this company because there's no job openings, and for me to grow and succeed, I'm going to have to go somewhere else. So we try to create that opportunity for success internally, but at the same time, I also want to recognize that we're not, we're a stepping stone. We have an opportunity for a temporary period of time to really, and we're entrusted with this person's career. Are we growing? Then we're offering training and growing and helping them succeed. And sometimes that success means celebrating them as they get a job somewhere else. But yes, you're right. We do try to create great environment for employee retention.
The only other thing I would add to that is we feel like our employees are really invested in the why behind what we do, and they really celebrate, and they feel like superheroes. Honestly, at the end of the day, when they can solve a problem for a customer, they feel like they're on top of the world, on the mountaintop. And it doesn't feel good when the customer calls and they're frustrated, but when they can get the solution resolved, when the resolution happens, you see that they celebrate it. And so we have a lot of nonprofits that we do, that we support and that we serve, and we do periodic tours of those facilities. They get to know exactly what the mission is of these nonprofits or organizations, and they really buy in. And I think that's one thing that helps keep them, I guess, a little sticky to us, is that they like who we support and serve. If we have clients that they are not thrilled with, then I could see how that would lend itself to dissatisfaction. So we try to pick our clients wisely.
I hope that we're always based in Frisco. And this goes back to a comment that I made earlier. I feel like the Frisco EDC, the Frisco Chamber, the city of Frisco is such a great brand. But to me, what the brand is really about is really a great culture. I think anybody that lives here or conducts business here gets that vibe. I mean, we talk to people all the time that are coming in thinking about moving their business to Frisco. And it's so cool seeing the look on their face for the first time, because it reminds you of the first time you came to Frisco. And I just feel like there's so much opportunity here. I was just meeting somebody for coffee the other day, came from New York, brought his business down here, and he said he called all of his friends and said, you need to move your business to Frisco. Any kind of business, open any business to Frisco, it will succeed. So I'm a huge evangelist for Frisco, as I know you are, Jason, as well. But I hope that, as big as we grow, we hope there will always have a presence here in Frisco.
This is my last question. What is the one book you've read lately or ever that's been transformative for you and your business?
Okay, well, I will say one, but hopefully none of my competitors are watching this online. It's a really good book. If I can only recommend one, there's so many, and you can read anything by Pat Lencioni, and that would be great. Obviously, Traction's a good book. But the one I would really hone in on is Business Brilliant by Louis Schiff. I read that book several times. Melinda's actually listening to it again. That book is gold nugget after gold nugget. In fact, if I told you you could buy a stock for $20 and it would be worth $1 million in a few years, like everybody would buy that stock. Well, that stock is Business Brilliant. it's been a game changer for our business.
So to wrap our conversation, thank you so much for being vulnerable, sharing your story. I, of course, enjoyed it, and I think everybody else did too. Is that fair? Yeah. But what about parting words? Anything else you'd want to add or that you'd want people to take away, whether watching online or here today?
I just want to encourage business owners out there. It's a tough gig, and it does create grit. It takes grit. And I know that some days you feel like the whole world's caving in. Like, I know I've been there so many times, like, what in the world? This house of cards is caving in. And it just seems like, a new day always has new opportunities. And so I would just encourage anybody that's struggling, you're gonna make it. If you just keep applying yourself, like I said, we have the philosophy of never give up, or failure is not an option. We just keep pushing through and not accepting, just not accepting it caving in. And I believe that it's possible. I just want to say that it's possible.
Well said. Okay, let's give it up one more time for Jason and Melinda Denton.